What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. As we work into February, we've been kind of expecting something to happen with the PlayStation 5, much like last time when they were launching the PS4. We had a PS4 press kind of event where they talked about the system at the end of February. However, a new website that's gone up for the PlayStation 5 might actually be pointing it to no February presentation, nothing with the PS5 in February. We'll talk a bit about what's going on there. Also, that mystery port on the Xbox Series X may have been figured out, and Animal Crossing had its file size and some other features also shown. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button does help out. You guys have been hitting it quite a bit, like I said, over the past month or so, and it has been helping the videos tremendously, so I do appreciate it. And if you're brand new here, make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below with the bell notification on. That way you can keep up to date with all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. And we're going to actually start today with Saints Row 4. We heard, of course, that there was a rumor going around that the fourth Saints Row would be ported to the Switch, and that wasn't really surprising to anyone. I mean, we had Saints Row 3, right, that came over, and we figured that Deep Silver would do the same with Saints Row 4. Then also Nate, DirectFeed Games, mentioned on Twitter that was happening, and then Amazon managed to list it just ahead of the official trailer that launched. You can see the listing here, and you can see that it is priced at $39.99, and it is coming out March 27th. Now, I do think that is a bit pricey for a Saints Row 4, but there's no real Grand Theft Auto, no real competition around them. This is Deep Silver doing the pricing, and of course, they have to also put it on a cartridge, which does work to increase costs, and I guess they wanted to also have it physically as well as digitally, but I still do look at that, see it as a bit too expensive, but hey, I mean, Saints Row 4, there are people who liked it because they gave you superpowers and it was off-the-wall ridiculous, whereas some people thought it got a little too crazy at times. But it is a fun game, of course, if you like the Saints Row series, or if you're looking for, once again, a Grand Theft Auto alternative, because there's really none on the system. Also, Phantasy Star Online 2, we've talked about it quite a bit, I'm very excited for it, but we're going to have the closed beta take place starting this Friday, so in 2 days. And I talked about preloading it, right, earlier this week and last week. You might want to do that, because I went to preload it, and it is nearly 70 gigabytes on the Xbox One X when I went to download it. Of course, there is some selective downloading, so it might be less on like the older Xbox ones. Not sure if this has anything to do with like 4K textures, any of that, but it is pretty large. So to do this, you just want to go into the Insider Hub, hit manage, and it'll take you to the store page. You can then go ahead and just install it and get that all preloaded so you can be ready to go on Friday. And people also made another discovery in the game's manual online. It does mention the PC version, Windows 10, and Steam specifically. So it looks like it will, as we figured, because it's going, we believe, everywhere after Phil Spencer had that interview at E3, that it'll go to all platforms eventually, that it would be going to PC probably next. I don't know if that'll be part of closed beta. PC could get its own beta for all we know, but Steam was mentioned, so that's great for anyone who prefers just having their Steam launcher set up. Phantasy Star Online 2 should make its way there. Also, Sony elaborated a bit more on their fiscal quarter results for the past quarter over the holiday period, and they talked a bit about how many PS4s officially have been shipped, and that is 108.9 million units, which is quite a bit, obviously, for a system. Now, that is another system, the 3 out of the 4, that Sony has managed to ship over 100 million units in their home console field. But if you look actually at the visualization of it, Daniel Ahmed put this out, you can see it here, you do see it start to decline. That is something we would expect. However, in what is effectively its 6th full year, they still sold 14.7 million PlayStation 4 units. That is very, very good. They really haven't even done that much price cutting, really. I mean, the PlayStation 4, if you walk into a store somewhere, is still at times $300. I went to the Walmart near me, and it's still $300 for the Slim. And based on what a lot of people are believing now, if there is no price cut now in 2020, it probably will be a pretty lean year for system sales for the PlayStation 4, but they can fall back on their network, which has made them apparently over $12 billion on its own, which is insane, right? But that's just what happens when you have a very large install size and the network parts with the services and PlayStation Network and all of that digital purchasing kind of all built in. That's why it works out really well towards the end of the system's lifespan when you're not selling as many systems, but you're selling quite a bit of digital games and other services. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get in the bigger stuff. Let's start with the PlayStation 5. It's a system we thought we'd at least know a little bit more about, and the reason I think a lot of us believe that is because we've seen exactly what the Series X looks like. Someone even put an entire image of it, the prototype, out on Twitter, but before that, at the Game Awards, we saw an entire trailer for it. Like, they made a trailer for the system, and there it is, this PC/fridge looking thing right in front of us. The shape and the form factor has grown on me at this point, but we don't even know what the PS5 looks like. That's kind of throwing us off a bit right now. However, remember, with the PlayStation 4, we didn't really know what that looked like until E3, but Sony's not going to E3 this time with a brand new system. They're going to do everything on their own, so we're kind of expecting them to, take the reins and go here. But this actually popped up. This is the part of their website it appears they have set up for the PlayStation 5, and it reads, PlayStation 5 is coming, launches holiday 2020. We've begun to share some of the incredible features you can expect from PlayStation 5, but we're not quite ready to fully unveil the next generation of PlayStation. Sign up below to be among the first to receive updates as we announce them, including news on the PS5 release date, PS5 price, and the upcoming roster of PS5 launch games. Now that, of course, is a bit of a downer because we were hoping that after this whole investors call that they had, that they would talk about the PS5 and maybe even do some sort of trailer on their own, which I guess they could do at any time. They could drop a Wired article at any time and it would blow up online, because every time we get a Wired article, we seem to get more and more bits of information, right? They even managed to confirm that the dev kit that we had seen online appeared to be the one that they were kind of carting around to the office to show up with for Wired. So if we get a Wired article, that would, I think, tide a lot of people over. But I also think after seeing that Series X form factor, people really want to know what the PlayStation 5 is going to look like. Is it going to be your traditional kind of box that you slide just into your entertainment center? Is it going to have to stand up next to the TV? Or we got to figure out where we're even going to put this thing? So that's number one, is what does the thing look like? And then, of course, what's the functionality and what are the extra features? And will there be a PlayStation VR 2 launching alongside of it? There are a lot of questions here, and it is a little concerning that they say that they're just not quite ready to unveil it. Now, again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it wouldn't still happen in February. They could have some sort of trailer or even event at the end, like at the very, very end of February. They could absolutely do that. They could also do it in March and any time leading up to when the E3 event will happen. I think they are going to try to do this all before E3, right? I don't think they'll wait till after E3, because you're getting pretty close to your launch window, which we assume is in the first half of November, which that's generally when Microsoft and Sony and for a while Nintendo like to launch their system. But they don't even seem to really have the pricing figured out, because the CFO during the conference call said this: what is not very clear or visible is because we are competing in the space, so it's very difficult to discuss anything about the price at this time. Depending upon the price level, we may have to determine the promotion that we are going to deploy and how much cost we are prepared to pay. So it is a question of balance. It is difficult to speak concretely about PS5 pricing at this stage, but fans and investors can be sure that Sony will choose the optimal approach. And a lot of this comes down to kind of playing chicken with Microsoft here, right? They're kind of both, I think, at least neither of them appear to be ready to talk about pricing just yet. They want to probably do that, Microsoft anyway, at E3. They'll unveil a price and all of that and kind of move towards, I think, the release in November. I also believe that Microsoft might be holding out with their cheaper version, Lockhart, up until that E3, so that after Sony shows off their one SKU, their PS5, that a lot of people believe is going to happen, they will then have a much cheaper option also available, trying to catch, I think, Sony off guard. Remember, with the PS4, Sony attempted to catch Microsoft off guard with some of its system configuration, like the 8 gigabytes of GDDR5, and they successfully did that. They shipped with 8 gigabytes of GDDR5, and Microsoft shipped with 8 gigabytes of DDR3, which gave the Sony PlayStation 4 not only an easier system to develop for, but a more powerful one at a cheaper price. So I think Microsoft's kind of mindful of that, and Sony is still doing a similar thing here. They don't want to talk about much of anything, it seems, with the PS5 just yet, outside of some things like, oh, it's going to have haptic feedback controller rumble, which, yeah, I mean, Nintendo already does that, so I would hope so, and adaptive triggers, little things at this point. But I'm waiting for the big blowout for the PS5, and now I'm a bit concerned it won't come for another couple of months even. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Do you think we will still get some PS5 information in February? Remember, it could just be a Wired article. That seems to have cut it so far anyway. Next up, let's talk about that Xbox Series X, of course, the competition to the PlayStation 5 that we just talked about. And you remember that those pictures that showed a prototype unit over on Twitter? It was the clearest image we've had so far of this system, outside of, I guess, the trailer, but that kind of just showed us what they wanted to show us. This was just flat out, here's the system on the front, here it is on the back, and fairly high resolution pictures. They definitely didn't take it while running through a conference room or something like that. But the back did leave a question, which was, what is that port? There's this weird port. You can kind of see the back here, right? It's this weird rectangular port that doesn't really match up with anything else on the back. We can name everything on the back, the USB ports, Ethernet, power. We figured all of that out, but that port we're not sure of still. There's been a lot of speculation on it, but it appears that Brad Sams at Thurrott.com has figured it out through their own sources. That is indeed a slot for expandable storage. That has been one of the ideas around what that could be, which means it does appear that Microsoft has a way figured out anyway, some way, to where we will be able to slot in additional memory going forward. That also brings up the question as to how much these systems are going to ship with storage-wise, because they're going to be using NVMe, which means it's going to be kind of expensive. It's not going to be cheap, right? And we kind of expect these systems to be 500 minimum is what we're expecting right now, right? With these type of drives in there. So that leads us to believe that we're not going to be changing them out. They'll probably just be soldered straight to the board, most likely. Expandable storage on the back could help quite a bit. The other thing that was brought up is, what if that port is populated when you get it? So like they already have some sort of storage in there. That's not extra storage. That is your main storage drive. That would be interesting if it really helps to cut costs that much. Although I still think it'd be better for them to just solder it straight to the board. But if there is an issue with the memory with your system, that would then be changeable, which would mean that the system itself wouldn't be bricked. That is my biggest concern at this point, is that if the memory inside corrupts or something happens, some serious error to where there's a hardware failure with your memory, then is the system, your $500 system, just completely destroyed? Maybe. I mean, we lost swappable hard drives technically with the Xbox One, and if it's gonna kind of go that direction still, it could be a problem for the more expensive systems. I like the idea of having something you can just pop out, pop a new one in, and continue going. And we'll see how this all works out with the technology and everything. And that's still something else Microsoft has to explain to us. Next up, let's talk about Animal Crossing New Horizons. We've been seeing bits of information come out. Some of it's been in the marketing where people are just literally spotting items and ways to customize your character and home just through commercials. Remember the commercial where they're walking around the house with the Switch Lite? Yeah, people were like looking at the screen trying to figure out what's new, if they're showing anything off that's really cool on there. Yeah, we're gonna need a direct, I think, for Animal Crossing before the launch, just to give people a ton of info on that game. But there is some information that has now come out that's a bit more clear cut, specifically the file size. As you can see here, we have this big infograph card here that was spotted on Discord and then posted to Reddit. And you can see it says 6.2 gigabytes in size, which is, again, I think pretty good. That's pretty manageable, right? I don't think that's bad at all. It fits on the internal storage. Trust me, we've seen some crazy bloated file sizes, even on the Switch, with companies like EA, and we, of course, see NBA get like 30-something gigabytes. Yeah, it's 6.2 isn't bad at all. The other thing is that it will have Amiibo support. Not surprising. Now, I don't really know what they're going to do with the Amiibos, and that's something a lot of people are now curious about, although I'm sure there's a ton of stuff they can do in Animal Crossing where you get different items, decorations, who knows. I miss the days where you would get some sort of NES game. This is on the GameCube, of course, though, but imagine like scanning an Amiibo and you get like an old arcade or NES game that you put up in the house. That was one of the best things I liked unlocking on the GameCube version of Animal Crossing, was that. But there we go, 6.2 gigabytes to look forward to for Animal Crossing. Should be pretty straightforward there. And then Amiibo support, but what would it do? You guys let me know what you think the Amiibos could do in Animal Crossing when it launches March 20th. And in our last bit of news, let's once again talk about Platinum Games, but not necessarily about Wonderful 101, which we talked about quite a bit yesterday when we were talking about their push towards self-publishing. let's talk a little bit about their time with Scalebound, because of course, you figure you sit down with enough people in interviews, even if it's not even about Scalebound and it's about things, like Wonderful 101 and where you guys want to go forward with possibly IPs that you can create with this 10-cent investment, they all just ask about Scalebound, right? At least one did. This was Eurogamer, and this is what they asked, which was, hey, what about Scalebound? Can we go back to that? Microsoft, I guess, still has it, but can we do that now that you have investment? And this is what they had to say. Again, it's a good question, but this was an intellectual property that belongs 100% to Microsoft. This is Inaba, by the way, talking back to Eurogamer after that question about Scalebound. Whatever happens with this project, we can't really do anything with it unless Microsoft leaves us. But it's a game that we fall in love with and love. If the opportunity arises, it's something we would love to return to. Scalebound, the word here is that there was such an issue between communication with Microsoft and PlatinumGames, and deadlines were missed all over the place. This, I believe, started production in 2013, canceled in 2017, and not as much was really done. It didn't run well on the Xbox One, probably would run better on the Xbox One X, but remember, Microsoft's whole thing is that it has to run on the original VCR system as well if you're going to release the game, and they're kind of carrying that through with the Series X. I do wonder if Microsoft even would consider, because PlatinumGames is in a much better place now than they were at the end of Scalebound when they were really struggling bad. Fortunately, Nier managed to save them, Automata, but you look at them now, I think they're much more ready to tackle something like Scalebound now than they were back then. So maybe with the Series X, coming up, maybe Microsoft looks back at Scalebound and says, hey, could we take another shot at this? Or maybe Microsoft says, you know what, we're not interested, but would you guys like to buy Scalebound from us? The trademark, you guys have that 10-cent money and you can self-publish this yourself. What do you think about that one? Have PlatinumGames pick up Scalebound and finish it the way they want to, because there was a lot of input, a lot of micromanagement from Microsoft. I think it'd be kind of cool. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day. As you can see here, this one is from Ash saying, considering the success of the Wonderful 101's Kickstarter, I'm worried that this might turn into a trend with other companies to save money on development costs. So it looks like they have raised almost, I think, $1.2 million or so at the time of this recording. And that sounds like a lot of money. But for development for companies like, say, EA or Square, that's not that much. Like, it's enough, obviously, for them to take Wonderful 101 and do different things with it. But remember, they threw up like a goal for $50,000 for the Switch. It costs much more than that to port this game to the Switch. They've just been working on it, I think, for a while. Since they started teasing it, they were probably kicking around the idea and, oh, wouldn't it be fun if we moved this over? And Nintendo gave them an out pretty much the whole way that, hey, if you guys want to, we will help you with it. We'll get it funded, but it has to stay on the Switch. I don't think EA is looking at this Kickstarter and they're going, oh boy, $1 million. No, it costs them much more to do a Battlefield or a Star Wars or any of that. And can you imagine if Disney was like, wait, why are you guys kickstarting something with the Star Wars IP? What are you doing there? Or even, if you look at Battlefield, I think it's easier for PlatinumGames because they are much smaller than people realize that they are. Like, they're not this massive conglomerate company. They're not bringing in 10, 20, 30 million dollars in a year even. But if you see EA, I feel like they would look at that and they just wouldn't want to do it because they would feel like it makes them, I guess like lesser than, like, oh guys, we have to go do this, right? No, EA's fine. They have the money, right? I think you might see maybe very smaller indie developers, but that's kind of what Kickstarter's for, right? It's for the smaller developers who don't have the funds right now, but have a great idea and people are willing to back them for. So I don't think this is going to cause a new trend of bigger companies showing up on Kickstarter. But I guess Atari did fund, or Indiegogo, the Atari VCS, although Atari, I think, is probably in a worse position at the time than PlatinumGames was. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go to here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the PlayStation 5, what's going on here? Like, when are we seeing this thing? I know people are getting impatient. We at least want to find out more information. I think the biggest thing is we want to see an actual game being run, something we can... I think it's hard for people to really imagine what the PS5 is going to be able to do, and that's what we want to see. We want to see a first-party IP or something being played here, At least we want to know what Bluepoint's working on, I would say. And what do you think about the Series X possibly having expandable, removable storage? I think that's a great idea. And then Scalebound at Platinum Games. Do you think Microsoft should license it to them, or do you think Platinum Games should just attempt to buy it outright from Microsoft and do it in their own vision? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.